Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See detail.
Today on CityCast Pittsburgh, as one Ferris wheel closes, another is waiting in the wings. We're talking about the latest with the North Side's Esplanade development. There are new, only slightly different and still very controversial recommendations to close over a dozen Pittsburgh public schools. More bathrooms are coming to downtown, and once again, that dang Columbus statue is back in the news. And please hang on till the end. Executive producer Mallory Falk will be on for a conversation sponsored by Alterations Express about their fast and affordable tailoring services. It's October 18th, the Friday News Roundup. I'm Megan Harris, and here's what Pittsburgh's talking about. I'm with CityCast producers Mallory Falk and Sophia Lowe, somehow still talking about Ferris wheels in Pittsburgh.
I did it. I rode the bridge wheel.
I did not. I tried, but I waited until the last day and the tickets were sold out before I even left the house.
Oh, no.
Honestly, I wouldn't go to Oktoberfest except for the Ferris wheel, so drew me, but it was still about $6 a person, and then you got 2 full rounds on the wheel plus loading and unloading. Yeah, not a ton, so it wasn't worth it in my opinion, because we have a lot of hills with scenic views already.
Totally.
That makes me feel a little bit better because I had ambitions of going to this Ferris wheel. I did not pay attention to the dates. And until we were preparing for this episode, I didn't realize I'd missed my chance and it was already gone.
Oh, yeah.
So
it got taken down over the weekend.
I'm glad I didn't miss out on too much. But if you're listening and you do have regrets, you wish you'd made it, you might have a second chance at river views from a Ferris wheel in 2026.
Yeah, because a Ferris wheel is part of the proposed Esplanade development, which is going to be in Chateau on the north side if it goes through. So besides the Ferris wheel, it would also include housing, a parking garage, a marina, lots of different things. And it's been in the making for about 7 years now. And earlier this week, Pyatt Companies, the group spearheading all of this, showed off all of their grand plans to the City Planning Commission.
Yeah, I remember in its original iteration, there was supposed to be this enormous wave pool to it too. And in the mock-ups for that, there was this one version that showed this beautiful blue wave pool next to an equally blue Ohio River.
LOL.
I know. I was always be real, guys. But I think that part of the plan washed out a long time ago.
I also remember there were plans for a grocery store because what new development can get proposed without a grocery store? But it seems like that's fallen away as well.
Yeah, I also remember the grocery store, but in this latest round of reporting, I haven't seen anything about it. So I'm guessing that got scrapped too. But there's a possibility of a hotel with an aquarium. I think we need the grocery store more, but that's just me.
Priorities.
Yeah, the north side needs more grocery options that are open more hours of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it does raise this question of kind of who this development is for. Are we catering more to tourists who might be drawn to a hotel aquarium or to folks in the neighborhood who need real services?
I mean, this is going next to the casino, so I think we know the answer to that question.
Yeah, true.
Pyatt Companies has been working with local neighborhood groups, so I'm sure people have mixed feelings anyway, but I'm at least glad that they're trying to get some neighborhood input. The next thing to watch is for city planning's vote on this, so that's happening in November, and if this gets approved, obviously a huge project. It would be done in different phases and could start, around 2026.
Yeah, I mean, and Pyatt has a very long history in Pittsburgh of getting the developments done that they say they're going to do. So I take this one with a lot more seriousness than I do some others we've seen come down the pike.
Yeah, I think every development that's been proposed since I've been to Pittsburgh has like fallen apart, but I guess we'll see with this one.
I'm sure a few have gone through.
Okay, most of the housing ones though aren't panning out.
But the ones we talk about are the ones with like big opposition. So I think that's part of the problem.
True. Okay, Mallory, what story are you thinking about this week?
Yeah, so we have been talking on the show a bunch about this big plan to overhaul our public school system, Pittsburgh Public Schools. We now have the final recommendations for that overhaul. So a reminder, PPS is not in great shape. Enrollment is declining. The district doesn't have enough money. So they hired consultants to come up with a plan to fix things.
Yeah, and we talked about the initial plan, the first draft, on the show before, back in August.
Right.
They had proposed closing 16 schools, along with a whole bunch of other big changes, like getting rid of the pre-K to 8 type school. So you'd like go back to having like a standalone elementary and a middle school, that whole thing. And then phasing out a bunch of magnet programs, too, which are historically rather popular here in Pittsburgh.
Yes. So obviously there were a lot of feelings about this proposal. The district held some community feedback meetings. I actually went to one just to kind of get a sense of how families are feeling. And as a parent whose child will be affected by this in the future, she's a little too young to enroll in the district right now. But now the consultants have unveiled their final recommendations based on that community feedback.
Is it super different from their first plan?
I mean, we all expected like big cuts. It was just how big, how bad was it going to be?
Yeah, this is pretty similar to that initial plan, though there are some significant changes. So they're still calling for a bunch of closures and consolidations, but a few schools have now been spared based on community feedback. There was a lot of pushback around closing Carrick High School in particular. The idea was that those students would move to Brashear and Beachview, which if you're walking or taking public transit, that could take like an hour to get there because there's just not great public transportation between the neighborhoods. Right. So after hearing those concerns, the consultants are no longer recommending that Carrick High School get closed. A few elementary schools also got spared, Lincoln and Whittier. And then in the Hill District, they've changed up their recommendations. So they're now calling to close Miller Pre-K-5 instead of Weil. They say that's based on factors like location and renovation requirements. And I think this is interesting because at least at the feedback meeting I attended, there were a bunch of people there defending Weil, saying how much they loved the school, begging the district to keep it open. So it seems like that feedback maybe meant something. But at the same time, there were also a bunch of people saying those same exact things about schools like Woolslayer and Fulton, which are still on the closure list.
And if any of this is like kind of hard to follow, we get it. There's a graphic actually that Public Source made. It's on their Instagram that is by far the best visual explanation of any of this that I have seen. Kudos to them for making that.
And they've been reporting on this too in partnership with WESA. We had reporters from both outlets on the show to talk about this back when that first draft came out. Anyway, all told, this new plan now recommends closing 14 traditional schools, changing grade configurations at 12 schools, and phasing out most elementary school magnets. A side note here, there is some controversy around keeping the Montessori magnet program.
So they are keeping that?
Yes, that's why I said most elementary school magnets, because this one is sticking around. It is a primarily white school, and so the fact that it could stay open while other magnets get shut down is definitely raising some eyebrows. That is another comment I heard a lot at this feedback meeting I attended. The consultants said that their reasoning is the Montessori offers something, truly distinct from other schools and programs in the district. They offer things like mixed age classrooms. But that's just, one example of something that's kind of controversial about this plan and has people raising questions about equity and like who is most going to be affected by these closures and consolidations.
Yeah, Mallory, I mean, especially after you attended that meeting, like just talking about like watching little kids come up to the mic and beg for their school to stay open. Like, it's just sad. Like, I know there's no way to deal with all of this in a way that's not going to cause harm and pain and disruption to families. But it sucks that this is the answer, that closing schools and disrupting lives and routines, like that's the best we can do.
Hearing little kids talk about, I remember one kid talking about how much she loved her teachers and didn't want them to lose their jobs. And for a little kid to be thinking about that.
That is too much for a little kid to be thinking about, Like, I could not handle that as a child.
Yeah, like lobbying your school board, like it's just like a hard thing to put on a child, like full stop.
Yeah. Anyway, there are some other new elements in this final proposal, like changes to the district's special education centers. We will drop a link to the plan in our show notes for anyone who'd like to take a deeper dive.
Yeah, this is a snorkel at best. But then we got headlines this week that parents have apparently submitted their own plan that they say is at least less harmful. Mallory, I know you were hunting it. Did you ever find a copy of the plan?
No, and I want to read it because I want to know all of the details. And
Someone send it to our inbox.
Yes,
Pittsburgh
please.
at citycast.fm.
Please. But props again to Public Source and WESA, who summed some of it up along with a few other outlets. So the parents group, they're calling it a community-led proposal. They've submitted it to the district. And they also seem to recognize the need to close schools. They're proposing 10 school closures. But then they want the district to get split up into regions. So without going into all the specifics of their plan, under this model, for example, children could attend any elementary school in their region. They're part of the city, and each school would have a specialized focus.
Oh, this seems really interesting. Now I want to read it too. I'm sure like the parents also have more insight into like, you know, what's best for their child. But I have a lot of questions about what attending any elementary school means. Like, what if everyone chooses to go to one and not the other? Like, how do you also allocate resources like that?
Totally.
That is a great question. And Sophia, you might have your chance to ask it if you're so inclined, because this group of parents will be presenting the plan publicly next Tuesday night at 6:30 at Smithfield United Church downtown. So if you're interested in learning more, you could go attend. The school board president says that board members are reviewing the proposal internally, but it's not clear how seriously they themselves are going to take it.
Well, so what about the official stuff, like the Pittsburgh public one that's been recommended by their paid consultants? What's the next step with that?
Yeah, so I think it's really worth stressing that this is the consultant's final plan. It's not the district's plan yet. The school board will review and vote on these recommendations in the coming months. And then if they are planning to move forward with closures, they are required to hold public hearings. So there would be another round of public feedback, and then they would take a final vote. So it'll be a minute before we know for sure if they are moving forward with this plan, with some variation of this plan, scrapping it all together, though I can't imagine they would pay these consultants and then completely disregard what they have to say.
I don't know. Pittsburgh Public's got a long history of paying consultants to do things and then may or may not actually take that advice.
Well, let's say that the school board approves this plan exactly as it is, and then closures are happening. When would we start seeing the changes?
Well, some of these closures could go into effect by next spring, so pretty soon. Others would be phased in over the next 2 years. So this is just so much uncertainty right now for families and for teachers and school staff, too.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Pennsylvania, like, as a whole is struggling right now with staffing its schools. And like, can you imagine being a teacher at a Pittsburgh public school and you like don't know whether you have a job in a year or two? Like, that's so stressful, and it really affects everything, like your retirement, all of it.
Also, like, the district has gone through rounds of closures time and again over the past like 20 some years. And so I do wonder what's being done to address declining enrollment to try to keep more students and families in the district so that after this round of closures, we're not facing the same conversation again in another 5 or 10 or 15 years.
Yeah. And I mean, the other question to me is the building. So like, I remember that being a big story when I first moved to town, like a little over 10 years ago. Like, the district was carrying so many vacant buildings. Like, and so sure, they're saving money because they didn't have to improve those buildings to make them capable for kids to be there, but they also weren't allowed to let them crumble either. Like, you still have to do the basic maintenance of a building, and that space that the city can't draw tax money from because the public school, of course, doesn't pay taxes, they collect them. So like, even if these buildings are vacant, even if they close the school of it all, they still have to maintain them to some degree or sell them, like let them become something else. But a school building is kind of difficult to convert. Like, this problem doesn't stop here.
Yeah, well, we will definitely be continuing to follow this story and see what the school board ultimately decides.
Today's show is brought to you by the Greater Pittsburgh Arts Council. We know how much Yins love finding out about new events here on our podcast and in our Hey Pittsburgh newsletter. But if you're looking for even more options, We cannot say enough about the weekly arts and culture events roundups from our friends at the Greater Pittsburgh Arts Council. Their arts blog has local arts and culture recommendations for every single day of the week, no exaggeration, including exhibits, concerts, performances, films, literary events, and so much more, all happening right here in our region. If you've ever gotten FOMO from missing out on a gorgeous local art opening or an installation that all your friends are posting about, I am pretty sure the Arts Council had the scoop. Be like us and check them out at pittsburghartscouncil.org or follow them on Instagram at PGH Arts Council. So this week also included a bank holiday, Columbus Day to some, Indigenous Peoples Day here at CityCast and for the city of Pittsburgh. So schools were out, we were off work, but it was also the perfect opportunity, I guess, for all the reporters in town to update us on the fate of that Christopher Columbus statue over in Schenley Park.
And if you didn't know we had a Columbus statue, that might be because it was covered in plastic back in
For
2020.
Years?
Yeah, it was during former Mayor Bill Peduto's era. He ordered it to be removed on the recommendation of the city's art commission. But then the local chapter of the Italian Sons and Daughters of America sued to keep it. Anyway,
I love the solution of let's just drape it in something and pretend it's not here.
Yeah, well, you can see it now. The city says that all the plastic has sort of just worn away with the weather. So the only parts still covered are at the bottom. Anyway, Megan, like you said, it's at Schenley Park. It's sort of right when you enter. So actually really kind of by Phipps Conservatory, not in the park on the big hill or anything. It was first installed in 1958 and it's really big, bronze and granite. It is hard to miss now that it is uncovered.
Yeah, Columbus is on this big pedestal thing with a huge base, but the only part that's still covered is the very, very bottom. All the plastic is sort of collected there at the bottom.
I just truly can't believe we're still talking about this 4 years later, but I guess it's still working its way through the courts.
Yeah, the phrase legal limbo kept coming up in the reporting that I read. So the city says that they are just going to leave it like it is for now. There's no point in replacing the covering. But a bunch of people quoted in stories and outlets all over the city don't love that. So Miguel Sugay, who has also been on this show, he sits on the board of the Council of Three Rivers American Indian Center. He's Taino, which were the first indigenous people Columbus encountered when he got to the Caribbean. So obviously extremely personal for Sugay. He says leaving it uncovered like that with no context about any of the atrocities committed by colonizers just continues to glorify this whole false narrative of our nation's origin story. It's upsetting.
Yeah, it really is upsetting. So I talked about the lawsuit, but it also sounds like there's a possibility to compromise outside of the legal system and find some other kind of solution. So the Trib reported that Sugay and the local president of the Italian Sons and Daughters group and councilperson Barb Warwick, whose district includes Schenley Park, they all suggested ways to keep the Columbus statue where it's at and give it better context. The Italian Sons and Daughters group still contends that Columbus celebrates Italian-American heritage.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that Warwick is trying to come up with some sort of solution because I know she's the one who sort of spearheaded the effort to officially recognize Indigenous Peoples Day in the city of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and she says, and I think rightly, that it would be wildly expensive to try to whole cloth remove the thing. Sugay, for what it's worth, at least in that Trib article you mentioned, Sophia, he's not even asking for its removal. It should not be there completely without context.
And different people do want different things. Like in 2020, when these conversations about this Columbus statue in Schenley Park were starting up, City Paper spoke with a couple Indigenous women living in Pittsburgh. One person wanted the statue removed entirely, and someone else also wanted more context about the statue and who Columbus was as a person, but also dreamed of having that land repatriated to the Council of Three Rivers. So there are a lot of different things that could happen.
Yeah, the Sons and Daughters group actually offered to pay for a second statue to live alongside the one of Columbus, to provide that additional context. I'm not clear whether that's something that's wanted. But from reading all this, yeah, Sophia, it just like makes me wonder if like the city or the Art Commission or Warwick's office even could maybe facilitate something outside of this 4-year-old lawsuit now. Because, I mean, the whole thing is about like who's legally allowed to remove it, like whether that should be the mayor or the council. And like, it's not even the same mayor anymore. I feel like there's a better way to handle this.
Absolutely.
Okay, so before we go, what will everyone be thinking about this weekend?
Earlier this week, city officials swept the homeless encampment on Grand Street. The public safety director said it was because of drug use, drug deals happening there. But, our shelter situation isn't really great since, 2nd Avenue Commons is still closed because of the fire. Smithfield closed so long ago, and it's getting really cold. So I am thinking about our unhoused neighbors. And Our Streets Collective is accepting donations for our neighbors who are affected by this encampment suite. So they're looking for things like 6 to 8 man tents, tarps, blankets, sleeping bags, warm clothes. If you want to help, but you also don't have any of these things, they also have an Amazon wish list. And, you can donate to them through Venmo or Patreon. We'll have a link to their requests in our show notes if you want to help. And they'll also come to you and pick stuff up. So this is super easy. Lots of ways to pitch in.
And speaking of helping our neighbors, we've also been trying to share ways to help our Haitian community, particularly over in Charleroi. That's where former President Trump incorrectly accused our immigrant neighbors of crimes that never happened. That was last month. In case you missed it, local lawmakers, including Republicans like Camera Bartolotta, tried to dispel it all. But as part of that, a couple weeks ago, we were also just talking about Charleroi history. Like they've been making Pyrex baking glass for like ever. And the glass making has been kind of their thing for over a century. But now the owners of those factories, Anchor Hawking, has confirmed that the glass plants are closing. So 1/3 of the workforce could be out of a job as soon as December.
Wow, that's really fast.
So the union is fighting it. Both Senators Casey and Fetterman and Governor Josh Shapiro are all in the union's corner. So I guess we'll see what happens next.
Yeah, layoffs are hard any time of the year, but especially as we're getting closer and closer to holiday season, it just feels even more terrible.
Well, Megan, you mentioned Trump, and I actually have an update about his Butler rally. So the 2 people who were shot and injured but survived, they just gave their first joint interview to NBC News this week. Their names are Jim Copenhaver and David Dutch. They talked about what was going through their heads when they first heard the gunshots, and they also said that they thought there was negligence on the Secret Service's end that led to all of this. So there are lawsuits coming, but still TBD who exactly is getting sued.
And then one more piece of Trump news, heads up for Sunday. Trump is going to be at the Steelers game.
Allegedly. I cannot imagine a worse traffic scenario than Steelers traffic combined with a presidential motorcade and the amount of security you would need after 2 attempted assassinations. Like, that just sounds awful for the North Shore.
Not that I would be at a Steelers game anyway, but I will be staying home.
Yeah, it reminds me of that old Obama line he used to say, like when regular people would invite him to things like their weddings or whatever. And he'd be like, you don't want me to come, because like the security alone was just horrendous. Mallory, I assume the NBC News hit is not exactly what you're going to be thinking about, though.
No, I will be thinking about the bathroom, sort of. I don't know if you remember last year, there was the Pittsburgh Potty Initiative and a couple of toilets opened in trailers downtown. Mm-hmm. I guess it went decently because the city is looking to expand that program and add 11 toilets with $600,000 of COVID relief money. So we still don't know the locations yet, but more places to, I was going to say pop a squat, but avoid popping a squat and use an actual toilet when you're downtown.
That's such an expensive bathroom. $600,000 divided by 11. Like, whew, that is a lot of money.
That kind of money could get you a Buc-ee's bathroom, like a gas station bathroom to the highest level.
I am not opposed to them. Like the big blue trailer toilet one, the Pittsburgh Potty at Gateway Center. I've tried to use it a couple of times, but it has been closed every time I've been there and needed it. Instead, I had to like walk through Eddie Merlot, like with just all the confidence I could muster and pretend like I was going in for a drink, but really I just walked around the bar and went to the bathroom.
I'm sure they're very used to that.
I know, but I felt so bad about it. We need more options, like downtown as a whole, but like all over the city.
I mean, for me, well, not me. I refuse to use the trailer potty, but my partner tried a couple months ago when we were downtown and it was open. So guess it's kind of a crapshoot.
Aw, Sophia. Well, y'all don't go anywhere. In just a second, we've got a segment sponsored by Alterations Express. Mallory is chatting with their marketing manager, Jen Rondinelli, about their services from altering fancy gowns to hemming pants in just half an hour.
Hey, I'm Mallory Falk, executive producer for CityCast Pittsburgh, and I'm here with Jen Rondinelli, the marketing manager for Alterations Express. Welcome, Jen.
Hey, Mallory, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm really excited to talk to you because I have a bunch of items hanging in my closet right now that I've been meaning to take to a tailor, and I just have not gotten my act together to find one. So tell me about Alterations Express. Like, how long have you been doing this for?
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say, like, it's something we hear a lot from customers. I've been meaning to come a lot. I just have put it off. So I'm glad that, you're sharing kind of a common story with our existing customers. But we're celebrating 30 years in business this year. We're really proud of it. We're happy to get back on track and celebrate kind of the success we've had over the past 30 years and then look forward to kind of the future. So we've been around for a while. We started in 1994 with a location in Youngstown, Ohio, and we've been lucky enough to mushroom out. We opened up our first Pittsburgh location in 2001 in the North Hills, and we're still there to this day. So our history in the city has been rich, and we've been lucky enough to be very successful in the city, and it's because of our awesome customers and our awesome employees. Now we have 4 locations across the city. We're feeling really grateful celebrating this awesome business milestone.
Yeah, so where are those 4 locations? And then when people come to you, what can they expect?
We have our Warrendale location and then North Hills. We have East Liberty that's kind of closer to the city, and then our Bridgeville location. So kind of North and South Hills, you should be able to find a location that is pretty convenient towards wherever you're located in the city. Those are our 4 Pittsburgh locations. We're known for fast, professional, and affordable alterations. Those are our business cornerstones, and we really adhere to those. Some kind of service aspects that make us different than your average tailor shop, we really put forward that professional foot forward when we're talking about our service. So we really prioritize putting customers at ease when they come in. Our fitting rooms are big, they're spacious. We prioritize privacy. We know that when you come in, you're looking for clothing alterations and tailoring, you kind of feel a little bit exposed. So it's our job to put you at ease, to walk you through the process beginning to end, and really at the end of the day, make sure that you're leaving feeling the most confident that you possibly can in your clothing.
So then tell me about the kinds of services you provide. What can people get done at your tailor shops?
Anything and everything done pretty much in terms of clothing alterations and tailoring. So stuff as simple as pant hems, clothing repairs, to stuff as complicated as wedding dress alterations can get, or formal dresses can get, or suit alterations can get. So we do full spectrum, men's and women's. Really, if you need anything done, we pretty much try to accommodate everything.
Gotcha. Well, personally, I've been cursed with short legs, and pants are always too long on me.
Same here.
So it definitely sounds like I could stop. Yeah, short solidarity. It definitely sounds like I could stop by with a pair of jeans. But then what about fancier clothes? You mentioned bridal gowns. I'm thinking of maybe a bridesmaid's dress, because at least in my experience, those things never fit very well. Talk about what you can do with some of those fancier items.
Yeah, absolutely. So for formal dresses, and this is something that kind of it makes us different than a lot of our other competitors. We don't require appointments for any of our customers to come in, so that you can walk in anytime that we're open and get any garment fitted. So if you're walking in with a bridesmaid's dress, we're going to be able to take care of you immediately. So, and then another thing that we kind of changed this year in terms of our service model is we opened up our bridal hub at Warrendale. So we took all of our wedding dress alteration specialists, our bridal gown seamstresses, we had them all transfer to our Warrendale location. And now we're handling all of our brides, all of our wedding dresses out of that singular location. So not only did that allow us to take care of more brides because all of our bridal seamstresses are now in one space and they're working on only bridal gowns. But it elevates that service for our brides, gives them a little bit more personalized and special experience, and make sure that we're giving them the best workmanship that we possibly can.
That all sounds really great. I will be honest, I think one of the reasons that I haven't brought clothes in to get tailored is because it feels like, just a little bit of a hassle to drop stuff off and then have to come pick it up another time. Not a huge barrier, but it's real. But I understand that you have a solution to this problem.
We do. So our very famous service, it's certainly something that we've built our business around, is our pants hemmed while you wait service. So if you're looking to get in quick, get your pants hemmed and wear it the same night, this service is perfect for you. So you come in, direct you to a fitting room, you put your pants on, we'll mark them, and then we can hem them in a half hour or less typically, and you can get on your way. So this service is definitely built for convenience, for people who are looking to kind of wear that garment the same day. And then also our turnaround time for any and every alteration project is just 4 days. So you come in on a Monday, you're going to get it on a Friday.
Wow, that's really fast. Jen Rondinelli, thank you so much.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
And you can check out alterations-express.com to learn more. We'll include a link in our show notes so that you're just a click away. Thanks for listening.
That's all for today here on CityCast Pittsburgh. If you haven't yet, or if you're new here, first of all, welcome. But also, please consider a membership to CityCast Pittsburgh. It'll get you ad-free listening, and we really appreciate hearing from all of y'all when you sign up. Mark H. told us this week that he appreciates that even when our squad disagrees on stuff, that we are still friendly and professional about it. Thank you for joining Mark. Our music is by Benji. Mallory Falk is our executive producer. Sophia Lowe and Selena C.A. Reynolds produced the show. Francesca DeBecco wrote our newsletter, and I am your host, Megan Harris. We'll be back on Monday with more news from around the city. Have a great weekend, everyone. The nightclub part was great. It was like misty. There were cocktails. They were doing a little salsa lesson.